Let's face it, the Z Fighters are getting older and the new generation is slowly coming into the scene. Not that Toei would ever let them take the spotlight. But have you ever wondered what happened to all the Z Fighters after the series was over? In this special Dragon Ball Explained, we'll explore just that, the fate of all the Z Fighters and more. Specifically, what happens to them after the end of Z, not counting GT of course, that's its own thing, and I'll cover it in a different video. All of this comes from Akira Toriyama related sources, starting with Neko Majin Z, his manga, then moving on to Dragon Ball Online, which he was heavily involved in, and finally covering some interviews. So first, let's recap what happened at the end of the manga. In age 784, Goku, Vegeta, and the others go to the World Tournament one last time. Goku has a different goal though, finding the reincarnation of Majin Buu. Goku's match is against Oob, the kid he was looking for. After a short battle where Goku forces Oob to show his true power, Goku offers him a chance to train. Goku and Oob leave together, leaving the others completely dumbfounded, but with promises of more adventures and further heights. That's where we left off in our story, but there were a few more things to see after the manga. For example, Neko Majin Z, Toriyama's attempt at a self-parody. In this version of the future, he also takes on another student, Z, a being from the Neko Majin race, no relation to Majin Buu. Z wears his master's martial arts colors, and even has his own Super Saiyan-inspired form. He's able to battle toe-to-toe against Super Saiyan Onyo, another surviving Saiyan who arrives to conquer Earth, and even final form Kuriza, Frieza's son. Yes, Frieza has a son in this continuity. Anyways, Goku shows up at the end of the series, challenging his student into battle, and defeating him with a cat toy. Goku requests Z's help to defeat a powerful new enemy, taking him back to his house to meet Oob, Pan, Goten, and the others. This means that despite the popular belief that Goku just leaves his family after the end of the manga, Goku does in fact come back to them alongside Oob. The enemy turns out to be a regular house mouse. But Goku's not the only one to have a little adventure after the end of the manga. The story of Vegeta in Neko Majin Z is a little strange. Remember, this is still post-end of Z, but Vegeta is seen sporting his classic Cell Saga armor, and arrives on Earth on a Saiyan pod. He has been asked by Frieza to rescue his son from Z. So, is Vegeta still working for Frieza in this universe? With the way Frieza is sometimes treated in Dragon Ball Super, maybe Vegeta is really just doing him a solid. Onyo even asks what Vegeta is doing in that manga. It's not his. But Vegeta simply battles Z, both using their super forms. But before the battle can ramp up, Vegeta gets a call that interrupts the battle, leaving the planet and promising to never be in a gag manga again. I will mention that Majin Buu also shows up and mentions Mr. Satan. He has a small altercation with Usagi Majin. Anyways, back to Goku. Akira Toriyama once speculated in an interview that Dragon Ball could be endless, leading him to have Goku be an old man. This was obviously a joke, but we do have a more concrete answer when it comes to Goku and Vegeta's fate. This comes from Dragon Ball Online. This was an MMO released in Taiwan and Korea. It takes place hundreds of years after the end of the story, and served as huge inspiration to what would eventually become Dragon Ball Heroes and Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Through the game, trailers, and its guide, we get a look at what happened to the characters in between the end of the manga and the start of Dragon Ball Online. As many Dragon Ball fans will know, Dragon Ball Online has been quite elusive over the years. But thankfully, people like The Devil's Corpse have posted a lot of the translations of the Taiwanese book and the Korean book online, as well as information of the in-game stories. I am playing through the game, but it's an MMO, it's quite large, so I'm using his posts as resources. I am gonna be showing some of the translated text, but not all of it, so if you'd like to see more, be sure to check it out in the link in the description. On age 801, Goku realizes that his age is catching up to him, and that his death is coming fast. But wanting to die as he lived, he approaches Vegeta with an idea: one final match amongst the stars. Goku and Vegeta both disappear for years to settle this rivalry. The outcome of the match is unknown, as Goku and Vegeta are never seen again. But years later, a massive supernova is detected, presumed to be the result of Goku and Vegeta's final battle. Personally, I think it's a very appropriate ending for Goku and Vegeta to share the same fate, and who knows, maybe they're still out there somewhere, but likely not. But Dragon Ball Online lets us know about many other characters, so let's continue with their children. Gohan, though a huge scholar, never really left his martial artist past behind. In fact, he married those two sides of himself by writing a book on the fundamentals of Ki. On age 804, Gohan published the book, The Science of Ki Control. This book introduced the general world to what Ki was, sparking a flame that would lead to a boom in martial arts. One of the articles in the book was "Kachin Can Be Cut," something he had been researching thanks to his previous experience with the sea sword and the universe's strongest metal, Kachin. This, in combination with the knowledge of Ki, allowed for further developments in sword martial arts. Speaking of which, Goten and Trunks followed Gohan's example by teaching the next generation, as the booming interest in martial arts gave him an idea, creating a sword fighting school together. They theorized just how powerful one could be if channeling Ki through a sword. Thus, Goten and Trunks developed the Kikoken Jutsu sword fighting school. But Goten and Trunks weren't the only ones inspired by the writing. Hundreds of thousands of people all over the Dragon world are now enthralled by the idea of martial arts, but I'll continue to cover that in a bit. First, let me go back a few years. On age 787, on the request of the Elder Kai, Dende deactivated the Dragon Balls. The Elder Kai always worried that the Dragon Balls went against the natural order of things, and Dende worried that they would only attract trouble. The same year, Mr. Satan once again becomes the world champion, increasing the popularity of the world tournament even more. But that may be jeopardized soon. Satan had been winning every time because Boo was always the runner-up, and always let Mr. Satan win. But Boo now has his priorities changed, as he realized just how many humans have partners, and wants one for himself. In fact, Boo was influenced by one of Mr. Satan's naughty books, Bob and Margaret's Forbidden Games. This was actually the same book Roshi used to teach Krillin and Goku how to read. But I digress. Boo decides to create his ideal wife, taking part of himself off to form her. The two of them realize that if they booby, a term from the book, they'll have a family. Thus, on age 791, they tear pieces of their bodies off and spray them with the Love beam, giving birth to the next generation of Majins and creating a new race of inhabitants for the world. Because of Boo's choices to have a family, he's no longer interested in playing around with Mr. Satan at the World Tournament. This forced Mr. Satan to announce their retirement on age 793, with the official story being that he wants to give the next generation a chance at the title. Even so, Satan begins to create a televised martial arts dojo named the Telecommunicated Satan-Style Martial Arts Course.
The way of Hercule. It's the only way for a true tough-as-nails warrior. And there's only one way to get it. Right here! In a limited edition of 100 copies, personally signed by yours truly. So order now, because when they're gone, yeah.
But people became aware that they were just special effects videos, angrily swarming Satan's home. This takes us to Pan, who's now 15 years old. She takes them all down. This scandal forced the cancellation of the Satan course, but the birth of a new sport, the Pan Fighting Network. With the help of Bulma, Pan developed a system to have people battle no matter where in the world they are, creating something akin to an esports-like scene. On age 796, Mr. Satan went on to become a movie star. He starred in many films, but one of the most important ones is The Legend of Mr. Satan, which didn't do well financially, but it was a huge cult hit, thanks to its special effects, which recreated a lot of Goku's and his friends' moves, but for Mr. Satan. People all around the world were inspired by the movie, and turned to Pan to study martial arts. Years later, on age 820, Mr. Satan would pass away, with the whole world grieving as the king holds a national funeral for the Earth's savior. But there would be little time for mourning, as the same year, something horrific would happen that would bring every martial artist together. Frieza's remnants would invade Earth. Assuming the world's strongest man really was Mr. Satan, the Frieza Force takes the chance to get revenge, quickly getting rid of the Earth's army with the use of Bouillon-like monsters. Bouillon, of course, being a monster Goku fought at Muscle Tower when he was a kid. They couldn't be hurt by conventional weapons. Even martial artists stood little chance, until two heroes emerged, Goten and Trunks, arriving with their swords and pushing back the enemy. Majins are displaced from their homes during the destruction and are forced to retreat to West City, while others help in their battles. West City is a prime target during the invasion of Earth, and Bulma devises a plan to protect it, fitting the whole city into a single capsule as the battles escalate. Bulma provides the Z-Fighters with Saiyaman-like clothing to hide their identities during fights. Led by Krillin and Ten Shinhan, the Z-Fighters reunite in battle against the Frieza Force and ultimately defeat them. Peace has returned, but the following year the boom of martial arts reaches its apex. Fighters from all over the world reach Kame House seeking Roshi's guidance, recognizing a lot of his moves as the moves used by the saviors of Earth. But he's way too old for that. Instead, he instructs two of his oldest students to create their own schools. Thus, Krillin and Tien form the new Turtle and the new Crane schools respectively. Master Roshi leaves them both with one question to answer: what can you do as a warrior of Earth? This leads them to two separate paths. Krillin realizes the Earthlings are often outclassed by the Saiyans, Namekians, and others, but maybe their role isn't to be the strongest. Krillin chooses to make his school based on being a support-type warrior, and places the dojo in the town Goku showed his strength for the first time. We don't really know where this is exactly. Maybe Mount Pautsu? Meanwhile, Tien saw a different path. He traveled all over the world to find his place, and came to the conclusion that powerful ki techniques were the way to go, similar to his own Kikoho, or Tri-Beam, and the Spirit Bomb. For this reason, Tien placed his dojo at Mount Frypan, now known as the Mountain of Refreshing Scenery, as this was the place Roshi and Goku first fired their Kamehamehas in the series. As for Bulma, on age 824, encouraged by the Frieza Force attack, she and Capsule Corp started the Bulma Foundation, and the world's greatest science exhibition, the science counterpart to the World Tournament, kickstarting massive progress. This includes the creation of Ki Batel, developed on age 839. The device is able to store ki and amplify it, eventually being implemented into various mecha. Years later, on age 992, Gun Batel, a gun that fires Ki Blast utilizing the Ki Batel, would be invented by a Capsule Corp researcher named Guy. Because of how powerful it is, a license is needed. And, though not a Z-Fighter, it does have to do with Boo, so let me mention this. On age 825, Booby World was opened by the millionaire Mr. B. Who's Mr. B, you may be asking? Well, he's actually the blind boy Majin Buu cured way back when. Mr. B always wanted to thank Boo. He even named himself B after Boo. But since Majin Buu is a big star all over the world, he never really got a chance to. Instead, he opened Booby World, a theme park all about the Majin race, hoping to make other people as happy as Boo made him when he cured his blindness. On age 826, Yajirobe came down from Korin Tower and planted senzu beans on Earth. After attacks from the Frieza Force and other entities, Dende realizes that Earth will need a new savior. On age 851, the Namekian reveals himself to the King of Earth, warning him about attacks from Mira, a time-traveler bio-android created by Dabura's sister, Towa. New Namek was destroyed, and the Namekians forced to flee to Earth. Because of the Namekians' fate, Capsule Corp establishes the Capsule Corporation Space Research Institute to facilitate space travel and research. I should mention that Roshi does survive the entire time, but he's not the only one. Piccolo is one of the characters who survived past many of his allies. Yes, sadly this means that he was likely with Gohan when he passed. Very sad. On age 853, Piccolo finds out that there are many of his brothers, aka the spawns of Demon King Piccolo, that have survived and taken refuge in places like Pilaf's castle, the wilderness, and more, even having children of their own. But all that remains is really monsters. Piccolo can't really deal with them properly, seeking the help of the new Namekian refugees. Murray, Piccolo, and the other Namekians capture the monsters, while Dragon Clan type Namekians research these mutated Namekians, even figuring out how to handle the creatures. This became the Poco Priests, led by Cargo, Dende's brother. But not all was well for the Namekians after this. On age 972, Namekians who settled near the area where King Piccolo was first sealed were corrupted by his lingering ki. Thus, on Ishuri's Lake, a legion of dark Namekians were born. This is where things get a little crazy, so I'm not gonna go too in-depth into this, but follow me here. One of the main dark Namekians is Gamelon, an evil Namekian that resents Dende for having the power of God of Earth, as he seeks to become God of the Narak, the name given to the dark Namekians. So, the dark Namekians align themselves with Mira. He represents the evil version of Dende, more or less, or Kami. He has various underlings, including Shokulai, who is the opposite of Korin. Shokulai oversees Shokulai Tower, where he grows Ajisa trees at the base, the Namekian trees, and uses them to cultivate Kili, while the higher levels of the tower are used to cultivate dark senzu beans. They also have their own dark dragon, Mr. Poco Poco, who looks like a fusion between Mr. Popo and Purunga. And it's stuff like this that makes me really wish that Xenoverse 3 adapts some of it. On age 975, Dende and the King of Earth formed a new policy. This one is actually kinda messed up, and it's kinda weird that Dende did this. But Dende takes inspiration from Gohan's training with Piccolo. Known as the Troublemaker Education Program, Earthlings, Majins, and Namekian children are taken from their parents and raised in the wilderness to become strong, hoping to find the next champion of the world. On age 990, as the world further breaks into chaos, Dende seeks the help of Uranai Baba to install Popo stones in regions all over the world, allowing people to retreat to their assigned stones if they're in trouble or when they pass out during fights. On age 995, Long, seemingly a descendant of Shu, and Shaw, probably a descendant of Mai, two researchers who used to work at Capsule Corp, now become Paela's minions. Paela being a descendant of Pilaf, who's trying to fulfill a prophecy given to him by robot future tellers. On age 998, Mira moves onto Earth, landing on Booby Island as his base of operations, while Capsule Corp begins producing GBT Hope. Dende asks Piccolo to investigate the evildoers of the world, including the new incarnation of the Red Ribbon Army, the Red Pants Army, and Mira's Timebreakers. On age 999, Piccolo returns from his investigations, telling Dende about Mira and his plan to bring about the end of the universe. But everything seems hopeless, as there is no one strong enough to take him down. Future Trunks also arrives on age 999, as he is now a member of the Time Patrol. This is a version of Trunks that, right after defeating the androids, he was found by the Kaioshin of Time, who reprimanded him about having all these time travel shenanigans happen. In order to make amends, he becomes a time patroller, fixing time rifts across time and space, but his sights right now are set on stopping Mira and his army. In hopes of finding a savior, Dende reactivates the Dragon Balls, creating multiple weaker sets to encourage new warriors all over the world to find them and grow, just like Goku had so many years ago. I'll also mention it here since I don't think I have really anywhere else to put it, but the Yardrans move to planet Earth and set up a system where you can pay them some money and they'll teleport you somewhere. Many of our heroes have their legacies remain even after their death, such as the previously mentioned New Turtle School and New Crane School. On age 891, a replica of Majin Buu's house is built for the 100th anniversary of the Majin race. On age 920, for the 100th anniversary of Satan's death, the legend of Mr. Satan is given a special edition with new CGI, sparking a new interest in Mr. Satan and the addition of the Satan style to the Pan Fighting Network. On age 962, for the 250th anniversary of Capsule Corp, a museum for the history of the planet was opened. That's pretty much everything Dragon Ball Online tells us about the main Z Fighters proper. But the Dragon Ball Online timeline has a lot more information on various other characters, such as Lunch, who broke out of prison for the 100th time on age 779, and the Pilaf gang, who tried to conquer the world again but failed on age 780. There's also descendants of characters all over Dragon Ball Online, such as Ubi, who's a teacher in the Majin village, and a descendant of Oob. The human player avatars also seem to be descendants of Goku, Vegeta, and the other Saiyans. They may have a very little amount of Saiyan blood within them, but they can go Super Saiyan through a wish to the Dragon Balls. And other material also implies other things, such as Dragon Ball Heroes saying that Beat is a distant descendant of Goku. Sadly, we know very little about characters such as Yamcha, Chaozu, etc., but we do have some interviews that let us know what happened to them. In an interview with Mando Kobayashi, Akira Toriyama revealed some of their fates. Yamcha kept on looking for love in all the wrong places. This led him to become a host club host, but he continued to get nervous around girls, so he got fired. Puar and Yamcha ended up becoming freelance bodyguards and helped Tien in his farm. Speaking of which, Chaozu and Tien's farm is actually quite successful, thanks to Tien's extra arms and Chaozu's telekinesis. Chaozu is hired by many farmers, leading him to amass quite a pretty penny for himself. Lunch also often visits, even if it never worked out between her and Tien. This is mentioned in Dragon Ball Super, but it actually originates in an interview with Toriyama. The fact that Android 17 got himself a family of his own. He married a zoologist and have one biological child and 2 adoptive children, living together at a nature park. I will say that this is just one of the most interesting interpretations of the future of the Dragon world. Of course, we have a whole series that tells us something else, Dragon Ball GT. But that's really a story for another time, where Goku's and Vegeta's adventures continue in a different way, and time traveler displacement shenanigans in Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Heroes. But as far as the closest thing we have for a fated ending for the Z Fighters, I think the online version's pretty great. I only wish we got to see more about Chi-Chi, 18, Oob, and the others. Even so, I would be remiss not to mention at least one thing about Dragon Ball GT. So, I will leave it with a quote from Masako Nozawa. Goku's original Japanese voice actress, on Goku's fate. She says, the scene where, after Goku finishes fighting, he writes on Shenlong and says, "Shenlong's back sure is warm." That's because writing on Shenlong means that Goku's going to leave this world and go to the world of the gods. I was glad that they didn't write it plainly that he died though. I feel that Goku probably went to Shenlong's place and is training again. That was all for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. And as always, a special thanks to my Patreons for supporting the channel and making videos like this possible. Faffing About, Kitsune Jester, Kaiju Monarch, Shadow Paradox, Eric Jenkins, Charlie Bean, I'm Just Sayin, Sean Paul T60, Evan Webb, Lost Saiyan 997, Orange Crimsicle, Chris Macareno, Yo Mama 420, Mao Lick, Dad D, Super Samurai, Ryan Wilpula, Beastman 420, Akko, D-Man for Life, Blaze 9526, Craze PlayStation CK, Free Flow Highway, Mystic Angel, Shane Ke, True Lightning Striker, Ghost 1571, Kaiser Jirachi, Trentrals, D-Man Plays 22, Jim G, Jerome Foster, Salil Paranjape, Keith Grimes, The Legendary Warrior, Dreadpool, and Samuel Randall. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss the best Dragon Ball videos, and until we meet again, see ya!